First story, wife affair full disclosure. Finally, it's been 3.5 years since D-Day 1. I have forgiven, tried to move forward, but inevitably would be met with even more disappointment by discovering I was still being lied to. Last week I talked to AP2 for the first time. They were completely unaware of my WW being married and really went out of their way to give me the facts. They sent screenshots, answered my questions during a phone call, and were actually very empathetic. She had deceived them by pretending to be someone she was not. I told WW I am leaving because she had entirely minimized and lied about what happened with them all this time. No matter how much I asked for the truth, she was unwilling to give it. There'd been half a dozen times she swore that I knew everything, only to find out for myself that once again, the full story was still being hidden. Yesterday, after my suggestion, she gave me a letter with everything from start to end. I told her that if I discover anything else, I'm going to take the letter and the new evidence she's still lying to my lawyer and leave. After she wrote everything out, she was convinced I was leaving anyways, and spent yesterday grieving the loss she brought upon herself. The letter covered almost 10 years, starting in 2016 when she first met AP1. The severity of the trauma I've endured by being lied to in the face of my own pain and vulnerability for so long has been immense. The new evidence and confessions aren't what I would describe as a new level of intimacy or betrayal, just more widespread and blatant. For all my flaws, I've always had a keen sense of discernment in life, and I've not found peace since 2019, always knowing I still don't have the whole truth. So I've done what anyone would do in my position, and have been patiently and kindly seeking out the truth for myself. With each new discovery comes a new promise of full disclosure, and each ending with another disappointment. The good news is that no new meetups or emotional betrayals have happened since 2021. Despite her still being in affair fog, neglecting boundaries and her need for help, and continuing to trickle truth me, she has not engaged in any new betrayal-type behaviors. The bad news is that now that I've finally got the full story, and have been experiencing a peace I haven't known in years, I may be broken beyond repair and unable to discern truth from deceit. Something that really got under my skin is that her therapist told her to hide the affair from me in 2020. A therapist advising their patient to continue deceiving their spouse should be a crime worthy of losing your license. The amount of pain and trauma caused by such poor counsel is staggering. We have a new therapist, thank God. I reached out to AP1 and their ex they were with during the affair as well. AP1 is a bitch, I guess, and even after all these years, is incapable of honesty. She was the first person I spoke to when all this started, and she lied to me out the gate, so I never reached out again. That was 3 years ago. Last week I reached out to wish her a happy birthday, which to me was hilarious because we barely know each other, and I only knew her birthday from previously obtained text with my WW. And let her know if she ever wants to talk and clear the air, I'd be up for that. She didn't respond. She actually knew me and knew my WW was married during her years-long emotional affair and makeout sessions. This weekend I learned they kissed in the bathroom, while the three of us were out at a restaurant together. She took advantage of my WW in a vulnerable state just days after the loss of her father, but WW was a willing participant as well. F her honestly. Anyways, I'm moving forward with R as of right now. I'm really hurting, but I do have the peace I've been seeking and believe the full truth is out there finally. Over the next few days I will be gauging what to do from her. I'm past my last strike and close to the end of my capacity as human being, trying to love and forgive. The genuine remorse, visible transformation, increased willingness and self-awareness, and finally putting my well-being over her self-preservation are major reasons I'm not halfway into a new life. I'm staying open to the fact that maybe my only option if peace and safety aren't a part of my relationship again as the next few weeks passed. For anyone going through this, I'm genuinely sorry. I've been through some crazy shit in my 40 years, and this is exponentially more painful than anything else I've ever had to endure. Our 15-year anniversary was last month. I'm working and praying toward trying to make sure it's not our last, but it may very well be. Cheers to anyone fighting for their own peace and well-being after being betrayed by their own partner. Demand and maintain your boundaries, never accept being lied to again, and heal your wounds regardless of how treacherous that path forward appears. Honesty is always feared but never regretted. Lies are convenient, but end in tears. Be a person of integrity, so that even when you're hurting you never have to look back and wonder what if. The way therapists are so hit or miss is insane. The even crazier thing is I started therapy around that time because I thought I was going crazy because I couldn't find peace in trusting my WW at the time before I discovered it on my own. And she was also advising me not to be concerned. All I can do is pray I don't have to leave. I'm out if things don't dramatically and rapidly begin improving from here. I'm glad everyone not stuck in your toxic relationship anymore. That's a major win. The insight about it not being up to me or in my control to fix the relationship has really started sinking in with me since November, and I've made some hard boundaries and held them since then. I've put the ball in her court. She has responded by really trying to work on herself and us, but I've noticed she struggles to know how to do that. She views a lot of it as a checklist to keep up with, rather than an ingrained respect and consideration from a place of genuine love. We've talked about that as well recently. I hate that I still love her so much. I'd rather suffer and make sure I should go rather than walk away regardless. But I do. I'd rather hurt myself than hurt her, but I'm at capacity for what I'm capable of enduring. No, I should have made that more clear. Nothing that could be objectively identified as betrayal happened until 2019. So for at least 2 years she was in active betrayal mode, I'd say, and then for the last 2 or 3 she's been in damage control mode. No offense taken. When I view my story from an outsider's perspective, I realize how unlikely it seems that there's hope. I try to do that often to make sure I'm not allowing myself to be manipulated any more than what I can't control. Update. Suffer alone nor keep expressing feelings. Context is that my WW had multiple AAs along with 3 McKeat sessions that I know of over the course of 3 years. D-Day 1 was 3.5 years ago. 2 was 2.5 years ago, and 3 was 2 weeks ago. About 75% of disclosure are things I've had to find on my own after being promised there was nothing else. I can see now that even though I forgave her immediately, true reconciliation just started in the last 6 months. I can sense my WW burning out a bit when it comes to having deep conversations and emotional talks in an effort to understand and heal from what has happened. I know that's not my intention. But the years of gaslighting and then trickle truth tapped into some deep trauma within my mind that I'm really struggling to overcome. I'm committed to staying while also maintaining my boundaries without apology. But I'm worried that before I get better she'll shut down and give up due to the emotional nature of things, and that being an uncomfortable space for her. How do you decide when to try and manage anxiety and grief on your own, versus sharing it with your WP, so they can calm you down and hear where you're coming from? The shame spiral is so real. For a long time after D-Day, that's how every conversation went, and I'd end up comforting her by the end of most of them. It's gotten somewhat better, but it still happens to some degree anytime we get into it. She's really been a person who hasn't made a single major mistake in her 35 years on Earth. And she was in a dark, isolated place when the affairs started. So I do my best to empathize with the fact that owning our mistakes and taking full accountability is not a muscle she's had a lot of experience growing. This whole thing has crushed me, but at least I see it waking her up to herself and realizing aspects of life she'd been suppressing. We were an MC and went for a while, but the therapists we had was super surface level and elementary. We mutually decided to halt those visits and seek out a betrayal, trauma, and reconciliation focused person to work with. We haven't found one yet, but it's on our radar and we are actively looking for that. She has read the book about how to help your spouse after your affair and is now reading The State of Affairs. She's been doing more intentional work and making real change in the last few months than I've seen at any time in our 18-year relationship. The inability and unwillingness to get honest despite my pleading and unconditional forgiveness over the period of years is really something I battle with on a daily basis. That someone else she barely knew got to see a side of her that I never did in over a decade. It's rough. I appreciate the delineation regarding fear of abandonment, and there is probably something to that. I know that she was mad at the world and felt like she'd robbed herself of living life the way she wanted instead of always doing what her parents or society expected of her. She started having same-sex attraction during this time, but I honestly believe it was some type of trauma response for her dad passing suddenly. She's stated that in a roundabout way. I've checked out all the books and I'm going to read it too, so that if there's anything in it that doesn't sit right with me, we can talk about it together. Both of us coming from broken homes and the values we share make our incredibly valuable. And I like the way the author of that book seems to push back on the burn it down and walk away mantra so common on today's world. We'll see how it goes and I appreciate your insights. Thanks. Definitely with an avoidant. We've laid the ground for being open to conversation, and now I'm working through not abusing and being overly dependent on that access. Lately, I've been pulled back into some really bad days because of the new info I discovered, and then some more she shared voluntarily following that. I feel so weak and incapable of healing. Deep down I know I'm doing the right thing, but at the same time I'm not sure I'll have the capacity to see it through. Second story. My girlfriend cheated on me. I forgave her, and after 15 days she kissed him again, and all of it happened 2 years ago. But she told me now that she kissed him on that day. I'm 34M, dating my girlfriend, 34F, since June 19, 2009. My girlfriend got her new full-time office job in the early February of 2022, and there was a guy who was on the same designation as her. He was single and he used to flirt with her all the time, and she also used to like him as he had this sense of humor that I apparently don't have. She also told me in mid-March that she is also attracted towards him, but she loves me, so she will not do anything. On April 2nd, I had to go to another city for a project for 2 to 3 weeks. When I was there I used to talk to her on calls for around 15 to 20 minutes a day. That too was just about that boy, and the same thing was going on for weeks. I used to ask her that if there's anything then please tell me and leave me alone. Don't just pull me into this shit. But she used to tell me that there isn't anything and she's just attracted towards her and she's just confused. She'll never leave me, nor she'll go to him. But I used to talk to one of her coworker who used to tell me that my girlfriend and that guy sit super close to each other all the time. They keep holding hands and even in breaks they go behind the water filter and make out. After hearing all this, I confronted my girlfriend and she told me that her coworker is just lying, and I believed her. I decided to complete my project early, and after traveling around 13 hours, I came to her office exactly at the time when she leaves to go to home to surprise her, and she was not excited or happy to see me, rather irritated and angry. And I didn't know why. She and 2 of her coworkers used to take a bus, and that day I went with them. I was just talking random shit, cracking jokes, and was just trying to make her happy, but she wasn't even looking at me. When her coworkers were laughing and even when strangers were laughing, she was not even showing any reaction. After that, we went on a small walk where I tried to hold her hand while walking, but she wasn't letting me. Before leaving she even said that she's disgusted of me, as even when she didn't wanted to hold hands. I tried thrice. After that day, I came back to my home and tried to solve things with her. but she was just straightly abusing and yelling at me every day for like 2 weeks, where I was just telling her to either be with him or me, and she was just saying that she's confused and she don't wanna leave me. We had a trip planned for 5 days, and that was for her architectural thesis site visit, and I was just accompanying her. We had this plan for like last 6 months and everything was planned and booked, so we weren't letting the trip go waste. So, both of us started the trip. Everything was going great when we were in the train, and even on the way to the hotel. We got into her room and started making out. But then she told me just when I was tearing the condoms pack, that she kissed him. I was in shock and wanted to go back and leave her. Then she said, more than 3 to 4 times. On many different days, even on the last day before leaving for the trip with me, she made out with him. She started crying and started repeating that she is sorry and she made a mistake and she will not do it ever again. After a lot of arguments, I got convinced and let it go. Those 5 days went good enough, as we promised that we'll not talk about this thing. When we came back, even before I dropped her off, everything was good between us. But, as soon as the next day came, everything started again. She used to abuse me, yell at me, say everything that can make me feel worse, and used to compare me with him all the time. We used to fight every day, but every time we used to get back in a day or two. Then, on May 7, 2022, when I was getting ready to go and watch Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Madness, I got her call and she told me that in the heat of the moment, she kissed him again. That was the first and the last time when I ever yelled or abused her. I broke up with her and blocked her from everywhere. I went to see the movie, but even in the movie I was getting calls from her, and even before the climax could start, I stood up and dashed out the movie hall while literally yelling and shouting on my phone. She was crying and sobbing that it was a mistake and she'll make everything right. She said that if I do even a single thing that I'm saying right now, you can just walk away and she won't stop me. Eventually, I agreed. Everything started going super smoothly and super cool. She started showing all the love of the world and I started to observe everything. She was trying to do everything to make it up to me, and I was seeing her efforts. But after exactly 15 days, on May 22, 2022, she had to go on an interview. And it is very far away and her parents will not let her go alone. And she has no other friend who is available, and has a bike to take her apart from that guy. She asked me if I'm okay with it or not, and if I'm not, then she will not go for the interview. But I said that it's okay and she went with him. I wasn't calling her as she might be giving the interview, but it was way past the interview timing and she didn't call me. So, I was concerned and I asked her coworker to give me the number of that guy. And I called him to ask what's going on. And he told me that the interview was over an hour ago, and they're at KFC right now. I talked to her and she just talked for 5 minutes and said bye. She was sounding off the whole time, but I thought that it might have been because of her interview. After she came home, we talked at night on the call, and she told me that he dropped her off at her home and left. It has been more than 2 years since then and everything has been great. I've been in this relationship since June 19, 2019, and now on August 23, 2024, she asked me that would it matter if she told me something that she hasn't told me. I said, it depends on what it is. Then, she said, it's about that guy. I asked furiously, what? She then told me that when he dropped her home that day, they went upstairs and made out. It was all in the heat of the moment. What the fuckkis, this heat of the moment. She wanted to do it and she did it. She's somehow feeling guilty about it now and that's why she told me. Even after telling me, she just says, why does it even matter? Aren't we way past this thing? It has been 2 years. Everything has been great since last 2 years. She just told me about that one kiss that she had 2 years ago, and that brought out my trauma back. That's why I'm clueless right now. I was going to marry her dude. I had everything planned. Even if she has cheated, even if she might have not been telling me the full truth. I just want the answer to my question. Does something horrible that happened 2 years ago and everything super great and beautiful that happened in these 2 years? And I just kept saying that it's all about trust and only trust. But then I just said that I can't talk to her right now. Don't poke me right now and don't message me. And she blocked me in return. What should I do? Third story. My wife cheated on me during her bachelor party in Cabo. Venting. Need advice, clarity. I found out my wife cheated on me at her bachelor party a year ago when I was having a suspicion that she was flirting with her coworker. I looked through her phone to find hidden messages on WhatsApp with 3 guys in Cabo. They have fun the entire trip after meeting in the club one of the nights. She even had texts saying she will be back. After confronting her, she was defensive and then somewhat apologetic but still lying to me. I told her I needed her to call the bridesmaids that were on her trip to give me clarity about what happened and talk to them in a way that they would not know it's me. She went and Snapchatted them. Cabo was in the hole, and I found out. So when she had called them, no one said anything about what happened. She had told me that she only got head and made out with them and nothing else happened. I didn't believe this because the text suggested otherwise. I went and texted her and she told me what happened. They had sex with a condom. After I told her I knew exactly what happened, she told me, and she was asking her the entire time, do you have threesome? And she continuously denied it. This was less than 2 weeks before we stood on the aisle. I also found out the coworker flirts with her, and she denied flirting with him, but it's pretty obvious she gives in to what he can get. She told me her reasoning was to see if she could pull someone. I feel so betrayed, but not just because she had sex with someone, because she embarrassed me in front of her friends, understood what she was doing, and continuously pursued them even after returning home. Her parents and mine keep trying to convince me it was a mistake and she's sorry for it, but I can't get them out of my mind now. I think of her putting her you know what I'm another dude and I get so disgusted. We've been together 5 years and 4 years before I never saw her do that. I lost so much to get married to her. She married me she knowing what she did. She doesn't seem sorry, mostly sorry for getting caught. Her dad, who I love and have respect for so much, wants to talk to me later today and I have to convince her I need a divorce. I really wish this never happened, and I never found out. Honestly, this girl I helped grow into a powerful woman career-wise told me to quit and he'd take care of me. So I'm left with nothing to start over. I'm 36 minutes, she's 36F, and we've been together since I was 21. My whole life was her and it just sucks so much.